The night air buzzed with excitement. Lights hung from trees like stars come down to earth. Music filled the sky, and girls in silk gowns spun in circles, laughing and dreaming. It was the royal ball, the one night every girl in the kingdom of Elmsworth had been waiting for. Tonight, the crown prince would choose his bride. But not every girl had a chance to attend. In a small cottage at the edge of the forest, Ivy sat alone by the fire. She stared at her reflection in a cracked mirror, her pale dress worn thin at the sleeves, her blonde hair tied back with a faded ribbon. Her stepsisters had left hours ago, their dresses new, their carriage shining. Her stepmother had made it clear, Ivy was not welcome at the ball. "You are not like them," the woman had said with a cold smile. "You belong here with the ashes and the dust." Ivy had wanted to fight back, but she had learned long ago that words could not change hearts hardened by jealousy. Her father had died when she was young, leaving her with a stepmother who never saw her as anything more than a burden. She had grown up cleaning floors, washing clothes, and eating leftovers while her stepsisters practiced curtsies and piano. But Ivy had something they did not. She had a kind heart and a quiet strength that no one noticed. Until tonight. As the fire crackled beside her, a sudden breeze pushed open the door. Ivy looked up, startled. Standing there was a woman with silver hair and eyes that sparkled like morning dew. "Do not be afraid," the woman said gently. "I have come because your time has come." Ivy blinked. "Who are you?" "Some call me a fairy godmother," the woman smiled, "but you can call me friend." Ivy stood slowly. "Why are you here?" "Because the world has treated you unfairly," the woman said, "and because you were not meant to be forgotten. Tonight, you shall go to the ball." Ivy shook her head. "But I have no gown, no carriage, no invitation." The woman raised her hand. Light shimmered around her fingers, and in a blink, Ivy's faded dress turned into a gown of soft white silk with tiny crystals sewn into the hem like drops of snow. Her old shoes became glass slippers that sparkled in the firelight. Outside, the broken wheelbarrow in the garden transformed into a carriage, and the barn cat stretched and grew into a proud white horse. "Go," said the woman, "but remember this, you must return before midnight. After that, the magic fades." Ivy had barely time to thank her before she was lifted into the carriage, her heart pounding like a drum. The castle gates opened for her as if they had been waiting all along. Inside, the ballroom glowed with gold and laughter. Guests turned to look as she entered. No one recognized her, not her stepsisters, not even the stepmother, who whispered behind her fan with narrowed eyes. But someone did see her. At the far end of the room stood Prince Elion, tall, with kind eyes and a tired smile that melted when he saw Ivy. He walked straight toward her, as if drawn by an invisible thread. "May I have this dance?" he asked, offering his hand. Ivy nodded, her voice caught in her throat. As they danced, the room faded away. She felt lighter than air, as if she belonged in his arms, in this moment. "Who are you?" the prince asked softly. "Just someone who was told she did not belong here," Ivy said with a smile. "Then they were wrong," he said, "because you are the only one who does." They danced again and again, and Ivy forgot the time, the warnings, the years of loneliness. But outside, the clock tower began to chime. 12 bells. Ivy gasped. "I have to go," she whispered. "Wait," said the prince. "Please, tell me your name." But she was already running. She flew down the stairs, one slipper falling behind as the magic began to fade. By the time she reached the carriage, it was a wheelbarrow again. Her gown had turned back to rags. The horse was once more a cat meowing in the grass.
She ran all the way home, breathless, heart full of something she had never felt before: hope. At the castle, the prince picked up her glass slipper and held it close. He said, "I will find her, no matter what it takes." But back in the small cottage, her stepmother had seen everything. She had watched Ivy dance with the prince. She had seen the magic. And she was not going to let Ivy be chosen by the crown, not without a fight.
The morning sun rose over the kingdom of Elmsworth, lighting up the castle towers and warming the cobblestone streets. But inside the palace, all was still. The prince had not slept. He sat in his chambers with the glass slipper resting on a velvet cushion, staring at it as if it might whisper her name. He did not know who she was, where she had come from, or why she had run, but he knew what he felt. When he had danced with her, it was as if the rest of the world had disappeared. He had found something rare, something real, and he was not going to lose it. He called for a royal messenger. "Prepare a royal decree," he said. "Every young woman in the kingdom shall try on this slipper. The one it fits shall become my bride." The messengers rode out that very morning, spreading the news far and wide. Girls screamed with joy, mothers rushed to polish shoes, and fathers lined up at the palace gates. Every family dreamed of being the one. Meanwhile, in the small cottage at the edge of the forest, Ivy sat quietly in the kitchen, scrubbing the floor with aching hands. Her stepmother and stepsisters were buzzing with excitement. "He is coming here," the older stepsister said. "Imagine me as a princess." "You," laughed the younger. "I am the one with the smaller feet." Their mother smirked. "Let the prince decide. We shall make sure he sees your best side, both of you." She turned her sharp eyes on Ivy. "As for you, stay out of sight. I don't want him seeing your face and running off again." Ivy looked up. Her heart skipped. "Again?" Her stepmother's lips tightened. She had not meant to say that out loud. "You saw me?" Ivy whispered. The woman stood tall. "Yes, I saw you sneak off in that stolen magic. How dare you make a fool of us in front of the whole kingdom?" Ivy stood too, trembling. "But I did nothing wrong. I only danced." "You tried to steal what should belong to my daughters," her stepmother hissed. "But I won't let you. The prince will never find you, not while I'm here." She grabbed Ivy's arm and dragged her to the old cellar door. Ivy struggled, but the woman was strong. "You will stay here until this nonsense is over." With a loud slam, the door closed. The key turned in the lock. Ivy sat in the dark, the cold stone floor beneath her. She could hear their laughter above, hear the prince's name repeated like a song. She closed her eyes and held on to the memory of the dance, of his voice, of how he had looked at her. Outside, the royal guard had already begun their search. The prince himself rode in a gold-trimmed carriage, the glass slipper held carefully by his servant. They visited every house, every farm, every cottage. Girls lined up to try the slipper. Some forced their feet in, others cried when it didn't fit. The prince remained silent through it all, polite but distant. His heart knew the truth. He would know her the moment he saw her again. At last they reached the cottage at the edge of the forest. The stepmother greeted them with a low bow and a sweet smile. "Your Highness, what an honor! My daughters have been waiting for this moment." The stepsisters lined up in their best dresses, each with hopeful eyes. The older one tried first. The foot would not go in, not even halfway.
She giggled and said, "Must be the heat." The younger one tried next. She pushed hard, gritting her teeth, but the slipper would not fit. "How strange," she said. "My feet are usually smaller." The prince turned to leave, but something felt wrong. "Is this your whole household?" he asked. "Yes," the stepmother said quickly. "Just us three. No one else lives here." The prince hesitated. He glanced around the small cottage. Then he saw something strange, a line of fresh dirt near the old cellar door. His eyes narrowed. "What is down there?" "Nothing," the woman said quickly. "Just old tools, nothing of interest." But the prince stepped forward. He nodded to his guard, who turned the key and pulled the door open. And there she was. Ivy looked up as light spilled in. Her hair was tangled, her dress dirty, but her eyes held the same light he had seen that night. His heart knew before his mind did. "It's you," he said softly. Ivy stood slowly, uncertain. "You came all this way?" she whispered. "I had to," he said. "I promised I would find you." He stepped down and took her hand. The slipper was brought forward. Gently he knelt and placed it on her foot. It slid on perfectly, like it had always belonged there. Gasps filled the room. The stepsisters turned pale. The stepmother looked as if she had swallowed a thorn. The prince stood and offered Ivy his arm. "Will you come with me back to the palace?" Ivy hesitated, then nodded. "Yes." As they walked out of the cottage, the morning sun warmed her skin, and for the first time in years, she felt free. But the story was not over yet. A crown was waiting, but so were the whispers of those who still believed she did not belong. And Ivy would have to decide. Would she rise above them or return to the shadows she had been cast into her whole life? The answer lay just beyond the castle gates.
The castle gates opened slowly as Ivy stepped through them, her hand resting in Prince Elian's. The guards bowed. The servants whispered. The nobles stared. Everyone wanted to know who this girl was, the stranger in plain clothes walking beside the future king. Ivy held her breath. She had never walked through marble halls before, never seen ceilings painted with gold or windows as tall as trees, yet here she was. And nothing felt like a dream. Everything felt real, too real. Some whispered she was a maid. Others said she must have used a spell. A few looked at her with kindness. Many did not. The queen, mother of Prince Elian, waited at the top of the staircase. Her eyes, sharp like a hawk's, moved from Ivy's face to her torn dress and messy braid. The queen's lips pressed into a thin line. "So, this is the girl," she said. Elian nodded. "This is Ivy, the girl from the ball." The queen looked at Ivy for a long moment. "And what are you?" she asked slowly. "A noble's daughter in disguise? A servant pretending to be more?" "I'm just Ivy," she said. "I have no title, no gold, no family left except those who tried to keep me hidden. But I came to the ball because I had hope, and I danced with your son because for the first time I felt seen." The queen's face remained still. "And do you think that is enough to wear a crown?" "No," Ivy said, "I do not need a crown. I never asked for it. But I will not lie to win it. If your son chooses me, it must be because he knows my heart, not because I fooled anyone." Elian smiled quietly beside her. The queen studied her again, then said, "Let the council decide." That night, Ivy stood before the royal court. 12 nobles sat in a row, their robes long and their faces serious. Some asked her questions, some doubted her answers. How can a girl with no bloodline become a princess? What do you know of royal duties? How will you carry the weight of a kingdom? Ivy answered with honesty. I do not know how to rule a kingdom, she said, but I know how to care for people. I've fed the hungry with my own bread. I've stitched clothes by moonlight. I've healed others' pain while hiding my own. If a crown means serving others with kindness and courage, then maybe I am ready. Some were moved, some were not. Afterward, Ivy walked alone through the palace garden. The moon lit the path with silver, and the roses seemed to lean toward her, listening. A soft voice spoke behind her. "You have caused quite a storm," said the queen. Ivy turned. She bowed her head. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty." The queen looked at her for a long moment, then said, "Don't be. Storms reveal what the wind tries to hide." She walked beside Ivy. "When I was your age, I too was chosen by a prince. I was a noble, yes, but I was not loved by the people at first. I was quiet, unsure. I made mistakes. But I learned something. A crown is not made of gold. It is made of choices, hard ones." She turned to Ivy. "My son has chosen you, not for your dress, not for your name, but for the way you look at the world." She reached into her robe and handed Ivy something small and cold. A ring. Ivy looked up in shock. "If you accept this, you become more than a bride. You become a future king. Is your heart ready for that?" Ivy took the ring. Her hands shook. "Yes," she whispered, "it is." The next morning, the bells rang across the kingdom. The prince stood before the people, Ivy beside him in a simple gown of white lace. The same girl who had been banned from the ball was now crowned by love, not by blood. The crowd cheered. Even those who had once whispered now clapped with joy. The people saw her not as a servant girl, but as a woman of strength, of grace, of courage. In the crowd, the stepmother and stepsisters stood in silence. No one bowed to them. No one offered praise. They had lost everything, not because of Ivy, but because of their own pride. Ivy, now Princess Ivy, did not turn away from them. She walked to them with quiet dignity. "I forgive you," she said simply. Her stepmother opened her mouth, but no words came. Shame filled her eyes. Ivy returned to the prince, who smiled at her like the sun seeing the dawn for the first time. Later, as they stood on the palace balcony, Ivy looked out at the kingdom. "Can you believe this?" she whispered. "Yes," Elian said, "because you belong here. Not because of magic, not because of beauty, but because you were never meant to stay in the ashes." Ivy leaned her head on his shoulder, and together they ruled with hearts full of kindness, proving to the world that sometimes the ones pushed aside are the ones meant to lead. And the girl once banned from the ball became the queen chosen by the crown.